John Grant here in Los Angeles. We are live on the 405 Saturday morning. How you doing? And joining us from the East Coast is the proprietor, owner. He's the guy in charge. His name is Mike, and his site is called The Loudmouth Elephant. It's a blog site, and he's just going to talk a little bit about it today, maybe go over some current events. So, Mike, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning, John. Doing well. How are you?
I'm great. Well, tell us about, your site, what made you decide to get it going, and, what your background is in terms of political activism. Is this something you sort of do on the side or something you're hoping to move into full-time? Give us a skinny on this stuff.
Okay, well, to start, the website is loudmouthelephant.com. And I would consider myself a political hothead, and obviously I lean to the right. I do like to talk about it. I'm engaged in social circles. I play hockey. I play baseball. I have a lot of people around me that are interested in politics, and probably the most important one is my wife. Unfortunately, she leans a little to the left.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, she's not that politically interested or motivated and stuff like that, which is fine. I totally respect that. So, kind of as a compromise and to keep a happy household, we, decided, well, why don't you write about it? She's actually an English teacher. She's big on writing and expression. And I had said, that's a really good idea, and, keep your ears nice and clean so you don't have to be, continually hear me go off about politics, what I like and don't like. So I started the website in the fall of last year and didn't realize that it would pretty much explode. Actually have what I would say, quote-unquote, full-time staff of 3, just
wow.
Like-minded friends of mine, one of which studied econ, and then there's the tech guy who doesn't write it all, just maintains the site and helps with any logos and graphics and stuff like that. And found a great engine through Google's Blogger that is just really easy to use for untech-savvy guys like me, I guess you could say. And just started rolling like that. I did a little research on how to keep a good blog, what will keep people coming to the blog, and decided to write about things that I would be familiar with. One of my pet peeves is when people make a claim and they don't back it. I don't care if you're Republican or conservative or liberal or Democrat. If you make a chant or you make a claim and there's no proof behind it, it kind of makes you look silly. And in today's political environment, I see a lot of that. So what I decided to do was kind of stick to my bread and butter. I went to school for economics and finance. I've been studying it my whole life. And once I became officially educated academically and even in the workforce, I decided to make that the focus of it. I mean, on the blog we talk about numerous subjects, but what I primarily write about is economics and taxes and stuff like that. So that's where the blog went, and then once it got rolling, the traffic and the activity on it just exploded. I promote that people are allowed to have opinions. Everyone can say what they want. It's great if you back it. We don't censor what people say, but it's supposed to be respectful, and it maintains respect by me and the administrators. We don't look at people, in any downward fashion for what they say. If you're left, if you're right, you can come on and debate. And we just want to see open, civil debate to current events and political and economic theory and such.
Yeah, I'm looking at the site right now, obviously, and, you're up there every day, which I think is a big deal because, a lot of blog sites, they're sort of infrequent. Folks don't get up there and do too much, and people who read them sort of get the idea there's nothing new going on, and they don't come back, but that's not certainly not an issue that you have up there. I'm looking at, this morning's entries. You've already got a dozen, real thoughtful comments going back on that. So you've got other writers that, you work with, or they're sort of informal contributors or techie people, or, that's pretty good to have a staff, quote unquote, of 3, because most blog sites right now are kind of one-man shows.
That's part of I guess you could say our business model is. I'm the primary writer. I'm under the screen name LME, and I write most of the day's updates and economic articles. I try to do the morning headlines every day, and what that is that's just 3 or 4 headlines that I think are relevant, but again, being an open forum site, it's there to promote people. Like if you saw something that you thought was great on a certain website, you would put that up there to debate on.
I see.
And it just starts the debate.
So you've got some pretty robust linkages here to I'm guessing maybe Twitter, Facebook. So there's lots of doorways that people can kind of come in and contribute things here. Is that fair to say?
That's correct. Yeah,
Okay.
we want to be as open as we can, almost like a bulletin board for anyone to express themselves in any way they can. In addition to the daily headline, I like to contribute at least one or two what I would call major posts, which are an economic write-up of some sorts during the week. Some of the really popular ones were I wrote a thing called Tax the Rich. Is this an Obama campaign ploy or a real deficit reduction solution? The difference between that and the morning headlines is this is an actual in-depth analysis. It takes sometimes 3 to 4 days to gather all the actual data, which of course I will cite throughout the article, to create the analysis, to create regression charts and stuff like that, so that if someone comes and sees, well, this is this guy's opinion and what are the facts behind it, they can. And then, of course, the comment section are always open for people to debate however they like. They can bring in their own analysis, their own sections, whatever. In addition to that, the third facet of it is, being that we're more of an open bulletin board, we run what's called readers' posts. And it's just really simple. We have an instruction on the sidebar of the blog, on the right-hand side, that just says, hey, if you want to write, feel free to write at any time. I know managing a blog is difficult. It takes a lot of time. But if you just want to express yourself, and hey, if you don't want to, yell in your wife's ear all the time, come to us. Write it up in a Word document. We will simply just copy it, paste it into our blog. Very minimal editing. Sometimes we just have to edit the font color, the font size. We'll send you a screenshot of what you wrote. We'll send you the finalized text as long as it's not changed. And the only thing we will change is vulgar language. And we'll put it up for you. You can name it anonymous. You can put it under your name, however you like. And now it's your post on our blog. And any traffic that you get, you can defend your position. You can rewrite about anything you want. We're very, very open to all opinions. We've had tons of write-ins from lawyers debating the constitutionality of, for instance, the commonly cited urinalysis test for welfare recipients. We've had different people write in from the left and the right about anything from Obama's trips versus Bush's trips to the misquoting of numbers in the mainstream media regarding the economy. So that's probably one of the bigger facets of the blog, is allowing people to just write here and there and get things off their chest without having to run a blog full-time like we do. Okay, we're talking to Mike from Loudmouth Elephant on the web, loudmouthelephant.blogspot.com. Is that correct? Yes, and the quick link to that is also just loudmouthelephant.com. Ah, okay, great. You got the deluxe URL there. And you can reach Mike on Twitter at LME Elephant BLOG, LME Elephant Blog. Okay, let me ask you a little bit about how you work, your personal existence into your political beliefs. You mentioned your wife was a teacher. You're in a blue state, so we assume leftward leaning is kind of the default setting there. But as far as your circle of friends, coworkers, you kind of keep it on the QT, or you talk about politics a lot, or where does that fit into everything you do? Since you're obviously very active and you've got a very visible site. The funny thing is, you're correct. I'm in a very blue state. I live in Maryland. And again, the person that I live with is also pretty blue, and there's nothing wrong with that. My social circle, I would say, is composed primarily of left-leaning people. One of the big differences between me, and I believe that this is what this country needs, is to remove ourselves from the disrespect and the vitriol of not liking someone because of their position. Opinions are opinions, and there's really no way to actually debate right or wrong or positions. I always respect what people say, as long as I get the same respect in return. It usually doesn't get in the way of friendships and social circles. Let me come back at you a little bit on that one, because the D word, divisive, kind of comes up, and I don't think anybody would argue that we're in a fairly polarized time politically in this country right now. Are you saying you try to get along with them, or you try to find middle ground? Because to be frank, a lot of people on the right don't find that there's middle ground with a lot of people on the left and the things that they want to do. There's no halfway to transforming the country. People on the right believe that the country is not the left's to transform. So are you talking about a compromise, or just kind of a social situation, or let me kind of pin you down a little bit on that? Part of the reason I did start the Loudmouth Elephant site was so that people can learn from each other. I can have someone like my wife or a close friend or someone at work that is completely the opposite of me. It could be my best friend, like I said, a wife, but I'm not going to allow that to get in the way of friendships. They can have their opinion. I just might respectfully disagree with it. I might say that their background behind it is a little off. I might say that I think my solution is better. But the difference is in what we see in mainstream media politics now is the constant attacking. I would love to hear what other people have to say. And one of my mottos is I'm only one set of eyes and one set of ears, and I'm by far not the golden standard of political and economic opinion. I'm always open to hear something the other side says. And part of that is instead of closing our eyes and opening our mouths and yelling at each other, we should more open our ears. It's okay to have a platform. It's okay to say, look, I'm a conservative and I have conservative ideals and beliefs, but I'm always open to hear what the other side has to say. And communication and learning from each other, I think, is what really could get this country going forward, instead of just sitting in the middle, swirling around and fighting at each other in this giant circle that I think we're doing right now.
Well, on your site, you've got the May 2012 jobs report out there front and center, and you did mention that your background is in finance and economics. And, this thing is going to get pounded to death in the next few days. It's not good. It stinks. What can you tell us that, we might not be hearing from people who, don't have your background, and what's your take on this?
Well, with the jobs report, it's not terribly surprising, and obviously I'm a conservative. I don't typically agree with Barack Obama's policies, though there isn't a lot he can do. I think the message out there is getting clouded in the left saying, well, we inherited this problem, and it takes a long time to fix, just as much as it's getting clouded in the right saying, well, it's all Obama's fault now, he owned the economy. I think there's a lot of incorrect messages, and one of the reasons to have the blog is to just convey a message. One of the messages I think that's getting misconstrued is that regardless of all this, to look at a leader, to look at the leader of a company or just even a social group, the president, a platoon in the military, the difference is if you make a promise, you should stick to it. And one of my things is, it's true. Jobs will take a long time to turn around, but that's not what was promised. If you promise to do something, if you say, hey, I'm going to reduce the unemployment rate by X% by Y date, or we're going to create X amount of jobs by this time in the future, then by gone you got to stick to it. And if you don't, well, then you technically failed. If you create an established metric by which you say you're going to stick and you don't, you failed. Now, like I said, on the left, they like to say, well, the GOP is obstructing this, and that's technically, it's irrelevant. On the right, they're saying, well, this is all Obama's fault. Well, technically, that's irrelevant. What my point is, one of the reasons I post the jobs report, as much as I can every month, usually the minute it comes out, 8:30, the first Friday of the month, is that here's a chance to put the meat and potatoes behind the argument. This is what's really going on. Hold this to the candle. Hold this to the promise that was made. And let's debate about what's happening. Is this success? Is this failure? Or let's move forward and try to move forward together. Though I understand, like you pointed out and like I pointed out, it's very difficult in this current political divide that we have.
Okay, Mike from loudmouthelephant.com has been our guest. A very active blog site. He spends a lot of time contributing content and a lot of back and forth comments too, which you don't see from a lot of blog sites, which tend to be one-sided. Hey, thanks for joining us, Mike. We'll talk again soon. You got a great site and you've got some great insights, and thanks for being on the show today.
Thank you, John. I really appreciate the opportunity.
John Grant here in Los Angeles. We are live on the 405, and we'll be right back.